So I've already talked about how the Pelicans season has become a complete disaster, and pretty quickly did as soon as it was clear that injuries were going to be a problem this season. They have had more injury issues than any team in basketball this season, but that notwithstanding, they're now 5-22. Like, this is an utter disaster of a season for the Pelicans. They would be doing themselves a favor at this point to kind of blow it up and try to build for the future, because I do not think the current core, even if they are all somehow healthy, which feels pretty dang unlikely at this point, has any chance at being a real contender in the Western Conference. So before we hop into the video and discuss the recent report that came out, and also just talk about what the Pelicans should be looking to do as a team, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 2,000 subscriber mark on the channel. That's my 2K channel. But I'm uploading every single day, multiple videos a day, breaking down all across the NBA. Would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. Without further ado, the Pelicans, basically, reports came out today, are open to trading anybody on their roster except for Herb Jones, Trey Murphy III, and Yves Missy, which I may have mispronounced his name. But there were even reports coming out the teams were interested in Herb Jones last week. I don't know if they'll trade him, but he has a really, really high trade value if they were willing to trade him. But I mean, realistically, that means Brandon Ingram's open to be traded. Will likely almost certainly be traded by the deadline. Zion Williamson. I mean, I was talking about a month ago that they should probably look to trade him, and it sounds like they are. CJ McCollum, who I don't know how much trade value he has around the league, because an aging offense-only guard on not a great contract is not a player that I think has a lot of value to other NBA teams, but there might be a team out there on the fringes of contention, on the fringes of playoff contention, that wants a CJ McCollum to try to kind of make a push for the future offensively, or at least this season offensively. And then obviously DeJounte Murray, who they overpaid for in the offseason. And I think if they could go back and remake that trade, they would in a second. They would pull that one back, because Dyson Daniels has been awesome. They gave up multiple picks as well. And even Larry Nance, I think, is a useful asset still, despite the fact he's not playing much at all in Atlanta. So this report kind of confirms what I've been thinking for a while now, which is that the best course of action for this Pelicans team to do is tank. When you look at the standings, they are currently the worst team in the Western Conference, and that means even worse than the Jazz. When you look at league-wide standings, they have the second worst league record in the entire league this year. And again, remember, top 4 worst records in the league get equal chances at the first pick, which could give them the opportunity to just select Dylan Harper or Cooper Flagg or somebody else with a top tier pick. Even if they don't get the first pick, a top 3 or 4 pick in this draft is going to land you a guy who has the potential to be a franchise cornerstone for a long time in a draft class that is as talented and elite as this Pelicans class, or as this draft class is. So it makes total sense that the Pelicans would kind of want to go all in on building towards the future at this point. The roster that they have right now is in some parts aging. In some parts, Zion, always hurt and just doesn't seem to be serious about basketball. I've made multiple videos already this season talking about the whole Zion Williamson situation, if y'all want to go watch those, but I'm not going to delve too far into that. But obviously, I mean, Zion, there's no timetable for his return. Brandon Ingram got hurt by Lou Dort last week, which was a shame, but no timetable as of right now for his return either, as far as I know. And realistically, this team is going nowhere but down anyway. They might as well fully commit to it and try to build towards the future. When you look at their future assets, they currently own their own pick this year. They own a Milwaukee pick this year, potentially. They own pick swap rights in 2026 from Milwaukee, their own first in 2026, an unprotected Milwaukee first in 2027, but they did trade their unprotected 2027 pick to the Pelicans for DeJounte Murray. So ideally, the idea would be to the point where you're at least decent by 2027, but that gives them a couple years here to rebuild this roster and try to build for the future. And they can likely attain a lot of draft assets for guys like Brandon Ingram, Zion. Look, here's the thing about Zion. I understand, and we've talked at length about, like I just said, about all the issues of Zion. There is a team out there in the NBA that is going to be willing to take a chance on Zion and take a chance on his talent, and will trade multiple picks for Zion Williamson. I 100% believe that. There are very few players in the league who have the high level scoring ability of a Zion Williamson when he is healthy. But the health is a serious concern, and I do kind of, to a certain extent, feel like they would have a much harder time getting the real super valuable return for Zion that they would like to. And that does make me wonder if this is a team that would really trade Zion this year, or if maybe they try to get Zion healthy back at some point later this season, get his trade value up a bit. Whether that happens before the trade deadline or not, I really don't know at this point because of the question marks about when he may even return, and the trade deadline's only about, 2 months away. So I kind of wonder if Zion will be traded this season, but I just think overall the conglomeration of useful players that they have could bring in some realistically valuable assets and allow them to attain multiple first and second round picks, as well as maybe even future young pieces as well from other teams that want these guys to try to make a push for the playoffs, make a push towards contention, all that type of stuff. And so I think they're doing the right thing when it comes to building for the future. The real question that I have, though, is who are the guys who have serious, super high-end value to other teams? Because, again, I don't think CJ McCollum has that. I think DeJounte Murray, at best, you're realistically getting a pick or two. Like probably not 2 picks. I don't think you're getting 2 first-round picks for him. Maybe you get 1 first-round pick for him. I don't think you're getting young assets and a pick for DeJounte Murray. And I don't think you're getting a first-round pick realistically at all for CJ McCollum. Brandon Ingram has had a really good year before his injury. I actually thought his trade value was going up, and I do think there will be a team that will be willing to pull a trigger on him, especially since he's an unrestricted free agent this summer. But him being a rental, again, does lower the value, even though he has played better as of late. So I do wonder what the ceiling for the value with him is either. And that's the biggest concern for the Pelicans. They're doing the right thing in tanking, but I'm a little worried that even these big name players are not actually going to bring in the return that they would like to get. And it just kind of puts them in a position of limbo. And for a small market team that has ownership issues, a lack of national coverage, and even lack of local coverage, I feel like in a lot of ways, the Pelicans are just in a really, really rough spot. A team that is going absolutely nowhere fast. I mean, when you look at the numbers this season, it's a disaster. It is an utter disaster. They have the 3rd worst defensive rating in the league. They have offensive rating wise been really poor as well. If it will let me click on offensive rating, there we go. They have the 2nd worst offensive rating in the league. I mean, they're bad on both ends of the court. It is a total disaster. They're not just record wise the 2nd worst team in the league. They're actually playing worse than the Jazz, worse than the Hornets, worse than the Raptors, worse than the Blazers, worse than these really, really bad teams. And that puts them in a good spot to try to build towards the future and get a high draft pick. So if there's one bright spot for this Pelicans team, it's the fact that it looks like they will probably get a very high draft pick in the next year's draft, assuming that they don't play too good as the season progresses and as we get towards the second half of the year and they potentially get some of these guys healthy again. So it's going to be crucial for the Pelicans to try to make some moves and try to make them relatively quickly to get this roster in a better place and to build towards the future. When I say get the roster in the better place, I mean get the roster in a better place to not be as competitive this season. In all honesty, I mean you can hate tanking all you want, but it's a real part of the NBA, and it does the Pelicans no good whatsoever to be even semi-competitive in the second half of the season. So with that being said, that's what we're going to call it on this Pelicans video. Just kind of thought I would do an update video on this team with the report that came out yesterday about their trade situation and what they're looking to do with their roster. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I will be back with more NBA content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.